being optimistic is incredibly important, I think, for a Member of Parliament.
Hello, it's Victor Perton here at the Centre for Optimism, and today I am delighted to welcome Dr. Fiona Martin, the member for Reid in the House of Representatives in Australia, to talk about what makes her optimistic and to share some stories of hope and optimism. Fiona Martin, look, it is so great to have you here. A little bit over 1 year as an MP, already making an impact, optimistic, forward-thinking. So Fiona Martin, may I ask you, what makes you optimistic?
Well, I think, I was born optimistic, to be honest. I really feel that I've been optimistic all my life. I've always had, I think, a sense of positive outlook, and I think that perhaps my mother has been quite important in developing that sense of optimism within me. So perhaps it was perhaps there's a little bit of genes in there that about the way I think, but also a level of socialization around sort of thinking in a way that creates positive thinking and instilling hope, and also I think a sense of determination around sort of what you want to achieve and getting there.
Well, your Australian needs infectiously optimistic leaders, and you really give everyone that feeling when I've seen you speak. So getting around the electorate, first as a candidate and now as an MP for over a year, what are some of the stories of optimism and hope you see in your constituency of Reid?
Well, I mean, actually, this is really funny, but my son says to me, and he said this before I was a Member of Parliament, "Mum, you make people feel better." So I think there's that level of, because of my background as a psychologist, and that's part of, what I did before I was a Member of Parliament, was to make people think in an optimistic way. So I'm very much geared towards that. But working with constituents, it's very similar in the sense that, I provide a level of hope and also a means of positive thinking around, getting things done. So be that an idea or a policy position, I am like a vehicle or channel for getting things done. So it's quite incredibly uplifting, but also a powerful position to be in the sense that you can do so much. But what the key is to listen to people, being consultative and being collaborative, I think are really important traits. And also just to love humanity, to love people and to want to improve people's lives, to make their lives better. And during the coronavirus, we've seen so much sadness, I think, in terms of people's difficulties and stress through both businesses and also the health crisis that we've had to go through. And we've seen some really good stories with small businesses and medium-sized businesses turn around because of really good policies like the JobKeeper policy. I haven't stopped hearing good things about JobKeeper. And a lot of people are saying, if it wasn't for JobKeeper, we wouldn't have been able to hang on to so many staff members. So we've been really lucky to have had that in place during this time. So, being optimistic is incredibly important, I think, for a Member of Parliament.
And one of the things we've done at the Centre for Optimism starting 6 months ago was asking people about their better normal. So people were already talking about back to normal or a new normal, which sort of sounded like an Orwellian term. And
Yes.
Our chairman, Rob Masters, you'd know, coined the phrase the better normal.
Right.
And 2/3 of people say that they've got a better normal, whether it's new hobbies, new fitness, more time with the family. It's been fascinating to see people more resilient and stronger coming out of it. So for you, thinking about how you and your family have come through the pandemic, what's the better normal for you, if there is one?
I don't know that there is any normal. During the height of the pandemic, we needed to adapt. I was running and walking into the office instead of, you know, driving in as normal. We had to make all sorts of adaptations to protect, you know, both the community but also staff members during the height of the pandemic. I think, you know, one thing that we really found hard was when the kids were at home and I was working and I'd be on a call, you know, a committee call, and the kids learnt to slide notes under the door, because so putting in requests for lunch underneath the door and all sorts of things. So that was all very fun. So there's been a lot of, you know, adaptations to normal life, and we've had fun along the way. But I think, you know, it's taught us how important, you know, it is to be able to just be resilience. Resilience is so important, you know, that ability to not just bounce back, but be able to accept what's going on and find ways to adapt and to move forward. So I think resilience is incredibly important, not just for our leaders, but for everybody in the country and worldwide.
Fantastic. So your history, I mean, you've got a PhD, you've practiced as a psychologist, and part of our work at the Centre for Optimism is communicating the benefits of optimism, you know, whether it's its impact on longevity, you know, it's central to good leadership, to strategy and innovation. And, you know, some of the recent stuff that, for instance, came out of the Vienna Medical School 6 weeks ago, you know, that optimists sleep better. So given your experience as a psychologist, do you want to share from your perspective what's so important about an optimistic mindset and the best ways that people who are not naturally optimistic can make themselves a little bit more optimistic, a little bit more positive thinking?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, as a psychologist, you know, particularly working with young children, one of my favorite resources was always that story, The Little Engine That Could, you know, the children's book, which is instilling optimism in young children. I'd often refer to that, not just with the kids, but also with working with parents as well, and telling them the power of optimism, how important optimism is. I have no doubt that optimistic people sleep better, but probably have better health overall, because there's that sense of hope, and that there's that feeling of I can do this, you know. So it's really important to feel and to think that you can do it, absolutely. So some of the things that we would use is increasing awareness of people's thought processes is really important, and understanding the difference between, you know, your feelings and thoughts, but also tapping into those thought processes as they relate to moments where life might be, you know, a little difficult, and where you have negative thought processes, trying to reframe them in a way that is more optimistic. So we would do a lot of cognitive behavioural therapy in sessions, and certainly that was quite powerful in achieving therapeutic, you know, outcomes, and helping and assisting people with various types of conditions, including anxiety and depression.
Well, Amanda Martin, the country is crying out for realistic and infectiously optimistic leaders. And I think our conversation today, you know, proves up that we have a new star in the Parliament. So whatever we can do to support you and strengthen your arm in spreading that optimistic leadership to the country, we would be delighted to do so. Fiona Martin, thank you for joining us in the Centre for Optimism today.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was my pleasure, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that episode of the Centre for Optimism's Optimism Cafe with Dr. Fiona Martin. We'd love you to get involved with the Centre for Optimism. Our website is centreforoptimism.com. And if you'd like to share what makes you optimistic, or you'd like to nominate someone you'd like us to interview, please feel free to make contact with us.